Anthem sung by Air Force Cadet Madison Brown, and the invocation given by Dr. Brian Conkle, Dean of Hendricks Chapel.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dean Conkle.
Please join me. Gracious God, be with us. Be with us today. Be with us each and every day as we pay tribute to those who served, and those who are now serving. Help us to be grateful for the fruits of freedom, and guide us to be thankful for the faithfulness of those who sacrifice their very lives on the fields, on the seas, and in the air where the battles are fought. We remember today. With great reverence and gratitude, we remember and we give thanks for the abundance of life and the pursuit of all things good. May such blessing be made known today and always, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dean Conkle. Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 104th Syracuse University Chancellor's Review. Today's Chancellor's Review is being held in the beautiful KG Tan Auditorium with the Daniel and Gail Daniello Building within the National Veterans Resource Center. I am Air Force ROTC Cadet Sharon Otesoa, and I will be your MC for today's ceremony. Before our ceremony begins, we would like to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous peoples on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University now stands. On behalf of the Chancellor, we would like to welcome all our guests, university members, community partners, and alumni who have joined us today virtually to share in this occasion. Additionally, we would like to give a special thank you to the numerous veterans organizations and their sponsors for making today's ceremony possible with your gracious award contributions and continuous support of the Syracuse University ROTC programs. Today marks the 104th consecutive annual Chancellor's Review at Syracuse University. Syracuse University has a long and powerful history deeply embedded in the tradition of the Chancellor's Review. The university's continued support and patronage of its military service members is unwavering. In 2017, we proudly celebrated our centennial Chancellor's Review. The predecessor of our ROTC units at Syracuse University was the Cadet Corps founded on April 20th, 1917 to prepare students for service in World War I. Chancellor James R. Day reviewed the Cadet Corps on May 4th, 1917, marking the first of what would become an unbroken chain of annual Chancellor's Reviews. In 1918, the War Department activated a collegiate section of the Student Army Training Corps at Syracuse University on October 1st, 1918, with an enrollment of 1,600 students organized into 4 Army companies, 1 Naval company, and a 35-piece Army band. The Students' Army Training Corps was deactivated in December of that same year. The War Department authorized Syracuse University a Reserve Officer Training Corps unit on the 1st of February, 1919, thus initiating a permanent military department at Syracuse University. In 1920, Syracuse University became the first educational institution in the country to offer a bachelor's degree with a major in military science. In 1919, the Corps of Cadets consisted of 120 cadets receiving infantry training. Currently, the Army ROTC Cadet Corps numbers 138 cadets, including students from Syracuse University, Utica College, Lemoyne College, SUNY Polytechnic Institute, SUNY Oswego, and Hamilton College. This year, the Army ROTC program will commission 25 second lieutenants. Syracuse University began offering flight training in 1940 and housed the largest Army Air Force's college training program in the country during World War II. In 1946, the War Department approved Syracuse University to be one of the original 77 universities to house an Air Force ROTC unit even before the establishment of a separate Air Force. With the establishment of the United States Air Force as an independent service department in 1947, it became known as Air Force ROTC. Today's Detachment 535 Air Force Cadet Group is composed of 56 cadets and includes students from Syracuse University, Lemoyne College, SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, SUNY Oswego, SUNY Polytechnic Institute, Hamilton College, Colgate University, Mohawk Valley Community College, and Onondaga Community College. This year, the Air Force program will commission 11 second lieutenants. The inspection of troops and the pass and review of the cadets is a traditional part of the Chancellor's Review, during which time the commander of cadets presents the members of the Cadet Corps to the Chancellor for inspection and review. And although we are unable to exercise this same tradition assembly as previous years because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are here today to commemorate this tradition and to recognize the merits and achievements of our Army and Air Force ROTC cadets. In lieu of the inspection of cadets or the trooping line, our cadets created a video simulation of the troops in formation just as they would be in the dome. Please enjoy the following video presentation. Please give a round of applause for the creativity of our ROTC cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now recognize those cadets from both the Army and Air Force ROTC programs who have distinguished themselves this year. Please hold your applause until all awards have been presented. The General Edward C. Meyer Leadership Award is awarded to an outstanding Army ROTC senior cadet who demonstrates extraordinary officer potential and leadership qualities. This year's recipient is Army Cadet Tobias Craner, MS4. The Professor John A. Meyer Leadership Excellence Award is awarded to an outstanding Air Force ROTC senior cadet whose exemplary performance and inspirational leadership mark him or her as an individual with outstanding potential for an illustrious career in service to their country. This year's recipient is Air Force Cadet Vincent Michek, AS-400. The Harvey S. Smith Memorial Award, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Regan, to an overall outstanding senior cadet in each service for leadership, discipline, character, and citizenship. These individuals are in the upper 10% of their ROTC class and upper 25% of their department class ranking. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Joseph Farr, MS4, and Air Force Cadet Craig Jason, AS-400. The Commitment to Service Award, sponsored by Syracuse University Office of Veterans and Military Affairs, is presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Regan, and awarded to a cadet who is either a veteran or dependent of a military veteran. The cadet must be in the top 10% of his or her ROTC class academically and demonstrate a strong commitment for military service and a proven understanding of citizenship through patriotism and Syracuse community service. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Stanley Smoodin, MS3. And Air Force Cadet Tyler Piro, AS400. The Dowdle Family ROTC Scholarship is awarded each year to deserving future leaders in the Syracuse University Army and Air Force programs. In recognition of their hard work, dedication, and commitment to service, the Dowdle Family ROTC Cadet Scholarship was made possible through a generous gift from Paul Dowdle and the Dowdle Family Foundation. This is awarded by Syracuse University's Office of Veteran and Military Affairs and will be presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan. This year's recipients are Army Cadets Robert Fraser, MS1, Madeline Mazzari, MS3, Michael McDonough, MS1, and Jasper Yu, MS1. An absence certificate will be collected. And Air Force Cadets Quinn Pelichoff, AS200, Garrett Van Franken, AS300, Nicholas Sariski, AS400, and Miyugun Song, AS500. Receiving today for a cadet song is Air Force Cadet Nicholas Sariski. General George C. Marshall ROTC Award, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey, is awarded annually to an outstanding Army senior cadet who has completed the National Advanced Leadership Camp or the equivalent. A cadet demonstrates leadership and scholastic qualities that epitomize the career of General Marshall. The awards consist of a certificate and attendance at the National Security Conference sponsored by the General George C. Marshall Foundation. This year's recipient is Army Cadet Tobias Craner, MS4. AT&T Veterans Leadership Award, sponsored by the New York chapter of the AT&T Veterans Employee Resource Group and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to cadets who have excelled in our Rethink Possible philosophy, recognizing a student who displays the ability to solve problems outside the box using innovative thinking and carrying it through to execution. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Benjamin Rabin and Air Force Cadet Garrett Van Franken, AS300. The Non-Commissioned Officer Award, NCO, is presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to an Army and Air Force ROTC cadet who displays high officer potential, dependability, judgment, and self-confidence. A cadet who has consistently exhibited the best military bearing, personal appearance, deportment, and leadership ability. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Catherine Crane, MS4, and standing in for Cadet Crane today is Cadet Kathleen Edwards. And Air Force Cadet Emily Weaver, AS100. The American Legion General Military Excellence Award, sponsored by Mr. Richard Sturdivant of Post 41 and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to the Army and Air Force cadets who rank in the top 25% in level of their ROTC subjects, and while demonstrating outstanding qualities of leadership, discipline, character, and citizenship. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Felicia Showers, MS4. Madeline Gordon, MS3. John McClatchy, MS2. Cade Lipsy, MS1. And Air Force Cadets Kevin Dietrich, AS400. Jared Akamora, AS300. Nicholas Timoshenko, AS200. And Mason Moya, AS100. The American Legion William P. Tolley Scholastic Award, sponsored by the Mr. Richard Sturdivant of Post 41 and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to the Army and Air Force cadets who rank in the top 10% level of their academic classes and top 25% in level of their university academics. Recipients must have demonstrated qualities of leadership and participated in related student activities such as student organizations, activities, or sports. This year's recipients are Army Cadets Luke Ziguang Liu, MS4, Ashton Holt, MS3, Shaban Grabsky, MS2, Luke Bonenberger, MS1, and Air Force Cadets Craig Jason, AS400, Jacob Donifrey, AS300, Adam Landry, AS200, and Emily Weaver, AS100. The Reserve Officers Association Award, sponsored by U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Thomas E. Shaw, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to outstanding cadets in each upper-level class who are in the top 10% of their ROTC class and demonstrates an outstanding leadership, moral character, and a high aptitude for military service with a professional appearance and a positive attitude. This year's recipients are Army Cadets Alicia Panisi, MS4, Jeffrey Estes, MS3. Receiving today for Cadet Estes is Army Cadet Nolan McNeil. Sarah Sharp, MS2, and Air Force Cadets Vincent Michek, AS 400, Alessandra Torres, AS 300, and Nicholas Timoshenko, AS 200. The Military Officers Association of America Award, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to an outstanding Army ROTC and Air Force cadet who demonstrates exceptional potential for military leadership and must be in good academic standing. This year's recipients are Army ROTC Cadet Nolan McNeil, MS2, and Air Force Cadet Alyssa Rote, AS 300. The Military Order of the Purple Heart Award, sponsored by Mr. John Desperito and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to outstanding cadets who excel academically and display exceptional leadership traits. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Isabella Lee, MS3, and Air Force Cadet Luke Terrace, AS 100. Scottish Rite Freemasonry Northern Masonic Jurisdiction Award, sponsored by Dr. Joseph Stab and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to an outstanding cadet in the level sophomore or junior class. The cadet must rank in the top 25% of their academic class, demonstrate deeds of patriotism during participation in extracurricular activities or community projects, demonstrate potential for outstanding leadership by exhibiting qualities of dependability, good character, self-discipline, good citizenship, and patriotism. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Jason D. Napoli, MS2, and Air Force Cadet Jacob Donifrey, AS 300. Veterans of Foreign Wars Award, sponsored by Rome Chapter Post 2246 and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to an outstanding ROTC cadet who maintains a good academic and military standing and demonstrates achievement and concentrated effort in military and academic subjects and possesses individual characteristics contributing to leadership. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Mackenzie Wenzel, MS2, and Air Force Cadet Adam Landry, AS 200. National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution Award, sponsored by the Central New York Chapter and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to ROTC cadets who demonstrate outstanding leadership qualities, military bearing, and all-around excellence in ROTC studies and activities. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Hiroki Ball, MS1, and Air Force Cadet Benjamin Johnson, AS 100. National Society Sons of the American Revolution Award, sponsored by the Oriskany chapter and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to a cadet with outstanding leadership qualities, military bearing, and all-around excellence in their ROTC studies and activities. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Kaylee Sioux City, MS-3, and Air Force Cadet Mason Bruning, AS-200. The National Society Daughters of the American Colonists Award, the Moses DeWitt chapter, sponsored by Miss Mary Casper and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to outstanding ROTC cadets who demonstrate qualities of leadership, good citizenship, and patriotism. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Madeline Masari, MS-3, and Air Force Cadet Miat Kant, AS-200. Daughters of the American Revolution Award, Fayetteville, Awagina chapter, sponsored by Miss Bonnie Rainieri and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to a senior cadet in each service who is in the top 25% of their class and has demonstrated qualities of dependability, good character, adherence to military discipline, leadership ability, and a fundamental and patriotic understanding of the importance of ROTC training. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Kathleen Edwards, MS-4, and Air Force Cadet Nicholas Sariski, AS-400. USAA Spear Award, sponsored by Miss Laura McKenna and presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to a cadet who displays the traits and characteristics that embody the spirit of service to others. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Michael Griffin, MS-3, and Air Force Cadet Levi Severia, AS-400. Society of 1812 Award, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to an outstanding sophomore cadet who encourages and demonstrates the ideals of Americanism. The cadet must be in the top 20% of their academic studies, who possesses a high moral character and encourages the ideals of Americanism. This year's recipients are Army Cadet Connor Schultz, MS-2, and Air Force Cadet Hope Spencer, AS-200. Distinguished Military Graduate Awards, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey to members of this year's graduating class who have maintained a distinguished military student status throughout their time in the Army Reserve Officers Training Corps and are in the top 20% of the National Ascension's Order of Merit list. This year's recipients are Senior Cadets Tobias Craner, Joseph Farr, and Felicia Showers. Department of the Army Superior Cadet Award, presented by Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Godey, Professor of Military Science, is awarded to the outstanding cadet in each year of military science who performs in the top 25% academically, demonstrates outstanding leadership and strong officer potential qualities for their academic year. This year's recipients are Army Cadets Hannah McNabb, MS4, Ryan Schneider, MS3, Clark Gray, MS2, and Jordan Quackenbush, MS1. Receiving on behalf of Cadet Quackenbush is Army Cadet Wenzel. The Professor of Aerospace Studies Scholastic Achievement Award, presented by Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan to the Air Force cadet with the highest overall academic average for each class. This year's recipients are Air Force Cadets Vincent Michek, AS400, Jacob Donifrey, AS300, Adam Landry, AS200, and Emily Weaver, AS100. The McClune Scholar Award, sponsored by Ms. Kelly Rodisky, Sr., Communications Director, Public Affairs at Syracuse University, and Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, to an Air Force cadet who must be in the top half of their class academically, outstanding spirit, positive attitude, and a commitment to international understanding and cooperation. This year's recipient is Air Force Cadet Mason Bruning, AS200. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the awards portion of today's ceremony. Let us have a round of applause for all of our award recipients. Please be seated.
At this time, I'd like to introduce today's guest speaker, the 12th Chancellor and President of Syracuse University, Chancellor Kent Severud.
Good afternoon and a warm Syracuse University welcome on a beautiful sunny day in Syracuse to our cadets who are here in person, as well as to the cadets and family members and friends and our community partners who are watching this event virtually. This is the 104th year that the Chancellor of Syracuse University has recognized Army and Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps. Last year, we were forced to cancel the review due to COVID-19, but the university opened again in person in August and has stayed open in person since. And our OTC continued to carry on throughout this last year in truly amazing ways. This ceremony is not as elaborate in some ways as if when we're in the dome, but it's been logistically just as challenging. I particularly want to congratulate, I believe it was Cadets Billiman and Kubala, who figured out a way to do a virtual march by and flyby and recreation of what would happen in the dome. Knowing how entrepreneurial our cadets are, I suspect some of them are already planning a virtual physical training for February mornings at 6 a.m. for next year. I don't think the commanding officers are going to let that happen, however. I want to thank everybody who made this event happen. It's been a lot of work. The individuals who played such a significant role in the lives of many of these fine cadets, and that includes Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Gotti, Professor of Military Science and Commander of the Army ROTC Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Reagan, Professor of Aerospace Studies and Commander of the Air Force ROTC Detachment 535, retired Army Colonel Ron Novak, Executive Director of the Office of Veterans and Military Affairs, Laura Bates, Syracuse University Army ROTC Office Coordinator, and Virginia O'Connor, Syracuse University Air Force ROTC Office Coordinator. As you heard, the longest serving Chancellor of Syracuse University, James Roscoe Day, way back in 1917, decided to make military training part of the curriculum here at the university. And the first review took place in front of Carnegie Library. Syracuse was the first university in the country to offer a combination military and college curriculum. In 1919, the ROTC was established at the university in cooperation with the War Department, and more than a century later, we carry on that tradition, and a century of consistent carrying on that tradition, which we believe is the longest continuing operating ROTC programs in the country. We are fortunate today, although we can't be in the dome, to do it in this spectacular facility where our ROTC corps have their offices, classrooms, lounges, and facilities. This is the Daniel and Gail Daniello building. It's such a spectacular testament to the commitment of our alumni and this university to those who serve and those who have served our country. We're proud that we have 194 ROTC cadets this year. Of those, of course, you just heard 138 roughly in the Army ROTC program, and that includes cadets, of course, from our partner schools, which include our close friends at Lemoyne College and at SUNY ESF, as well as others. In addition, the 56 Air Force ROTC cadets, that's a 54% increase in enrollment over the last year. I want to say, particularly in recognition of our Army cadets first, those receiving awards today have an impressive grade point average of 3.6 here. Beyond their academic excellence, these Army ROTC cadets played such a crucial role in keeping this university open through COVID-19, through their help in the response all this academic year. They were more than half of the volunteer COVID testers for this university over this year. They recognized the need and they stepped up. They are in large part responsible for the over 300,000 COVID-19 tests that we conducted on this campus so far this year. These cadets also created a social media recruitment campaign to address the challenge of continuing to build our corps in the coming years. Their social media channels now reach more than 10,000 people a month. This increased awareness was bolstered by their work to design and film the U.S. Army Cadet Command's first ever virtual recruiting campaign, which reached many prospective cadets at the height of the pandemic, many of whom now will be coming here in the coming year. The campaign featured our own former cadet and Marshall Scholar, Second Lieutenant Bethany Murphy. 2 Army ROTC cadets, the first 2 in our history this year, attended a special operations assessment and selection. They were chosen over 1/3 of the active duty officers and non-commissioned officers who attended. And now turning to our Air Force cadets, who had a spectacular year as well. Those receiving awards today turned in a cumulative grade point average of 3.33. This detachment designed the first ever virtual reality drill practice simulation. In addition, the detachment successfully executed field training exercises despite COVID-19 restrictions, and at those exercises achieved a 100% cadet pass rate. Very, very few programs in our country made it through this year without having to request training waivers, but we did. This achievement is truly exceptional. One of our Air Force ROTC cadets will be directly commissioned shortly into the Space Force. 2 other Air Force ROTC cadets will be entering the Judge Advocate General program in the 2-year accelerated program. As a lawyer and law professor who's taught many JAG officers, I can say I'm so proud of this because this is such a highly selective and incredibly demanding program. We are approaching commencement at Syracuse University 1 month from today, and we're approaching the commissioning ceremony for this class of cadets about to become lieutenants. I want them to know that Syracuse University and our partner colleges are proud of you. We're proud that you balance really rigorous academic programs and the very strenuous requirements of our OTC training. These cadets are always among our most accomplished scholars here, and they always go on to careers, and extraordinary ones, as pilots, as cybersecurity experts, as engineers, as air traffic controllers, as logisticians, all of these professional roles serving our country and all of us. I also want to thank all the faculty and all the staff and administrators watching this today. If you're watching this, I think it's because you've supported some of these cadets in their journey through college. I think you've believed in their potential. I believe you know, as I do, that they have demonstrated potential for greatness. I would say that these cadets represent our school at its best. At Syracuse, we're really proud. There are more than 100 professional staff here at the university dedicated year-round, 24/7, to making this the best place in the country for veterans and military-connected students, faculty, staff, and alumni. That's a lot compared to almost everywhere else. And they do a great job because they believe in you, they believe in these cadets, and they believe in those who have served. To the parents, to the families of these exceptional cadets, I thank you for raising them. I thank you for raising them to add value and to have the values they have. I thank you for trusting them to us, particularly in the challenging times that the last 18 months have been. We are all fortunate that we had these cadets and have them in our communities. I recognize their discipline, their dedication, but most of all, I recognize what they have contributed to making this a better place. And without question, Syracuse is such a better place because of our ROTC programs. So again, to our cadets, congratulations. We're proud of you. We believe in you. We expect great things from you in the future. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chancellor Severud. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 2021 Chancellor's Review and Awards Ceremony. We thank you for your continued support of the Army and Air Force ROTC programs. Please rise for the playing of the Army song, the Air Force song, and the Syracuse alma mater. We hope you've enjoyed today's ceremony. Thank you.